Well, good day and welcome back. Well, if I remember right, a recent video we talked about parts machines. That video was talking about a Olivetti Studio 44 that has the broken off carriage return lever, and I got a parts machine very inexpensively, and then it turned out that the parts machine was actually in better shape than the machine I was trying to fix. So I ended up cleaning up the parts machine, and now I have two Studio 44s that are still functional. Well, this is a similar story. This machine was to be a parts machine, and it is an SCM Electra 120. Well, if the name Electra means anything to you, maybe you worked in the semiconductor business and worked on Applied Materials' copper electroplating tool called the Electra. I did, but that's not what this is. This is an SCM, a 6 series electric type bar Smith Corona Electra 120, and the way I got this machine is a few weeks ago my friend Bill Teft and I took a day trip out to east of the Sandia Mountains to the little town of Edgewood. We met a typewriter collector who lives out there. We met him at the Starbucks at the Smith's grocery store, which was a fun little impromptu typewriter gathering. Bill was buying an Electra 220, I think, from him. It turns out that his 220 had the little plastic card guide broken. And so what Bill did is he looked on Craigslist and found this machine as a parts machine in the area, acquired it for very inexpensively, and he then took the good plastic card guide off of this one, put it in his other machine, and gave me this machine. Well, I cleaned this one up also the other day. It needed a lot of degreasing, and the case still needs some work. The case is kind of, the top lid doesn't quite mate with the bottom one well, and the latch doesn't work very well, but that's for another day. I have the broken card guide from Bill's other machine. This was supposed to be the parts machine for it. And I've done this once before. I fashioned a makeshift clear plastic card guide on typewriters. And I think I will try doing that on this one today. And this is one of these videos, by the way, where I haven't actually done it yet. So we're shooting this clip before I've actually done it. So I don't really know if it's going to succeed or not. But stay tuned and we'll see if it does. So this is an Olympia Reporter made by Nakajima in Japan. It's also an electric typewriter machine. And what I did with its broken card guides is it comes in two pieces. And maybe you can see the bracket down here with the screws. There's one on the other half, of course. So I cut this curved piece of plastic from a plastic product container of some kind. It didn't do a perfectly precise job of cutting it, but it's pretty close. And the hole's right here, and it mounts right to the position of the old ones. And the actual nice thing about this is the new card guides stay closer to the platen than the old ones, and you can actually thread paper through this machine now, and it'll go right underneath the paper bale. You don't have to lift the paper bale. So that's one of the secrets to why the Hermes 3000 feeds paper so well, is because its clear card guides are nice and big and stay close to the platen surface. So there's an example of how you can use just discarded plastic containers that might have a similar kind of curve to what you want, and that's what we're going to try to do with this electric Smith Corona. Well, this is the broken card guide. This metal part has these two loops, and it sits down onto two screws right around the ribbon vibrator area. And so what I'd like to do is find a curved piece of fairly rigid plastic that I can replace this with. But you might notice here, the plastic parts are riveted to the metal part. And these are tiny rivets. I don't have a rivet gun or rivets of this kind. They're not readily available at common hardware stores. So I would either have to use some tiny machine screws, like 440 machine screws or something like that, or I have another idea. I'm going to find a product package that has some fairly rigid plastic, thin plastic that's curved, and I'm going to try to replace it, but instead of replacing just the plastic part of this and keeping the metal part, I'm going to try replacing the entire thing with a piece of plastic that's going to be cut to shape. It'll have two notches for the screw holes, and also This typewriter is a 12-inch carriage, but it's a really tiny plastic card guide. I've always thought that the card guides on these Smith Coronas were too small. So if I'm going to make a new thing out of plastic, I could just make it bigger. I could make it wider. It would be a more effective card guide. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. So I found this plastic container. This is a tonic water container, and it's plastic, but it's nice and thick and pretty rigid. So the platen itself is about this diameter, and the bottle is certainly bigger. Maybe we can angle it in such a way that the edge of the plastic will sit really close to the platen and work as a card guide. We'll have to start carving on this and see what we can do. Okay, so what I did is I just put some tape on this bottle here and used an X-Acto knife, and I cut out a rectangle of plastic from the side of the drinks container, and it does have a plastic liner on the inside that actually protects the beverage from the outer bottle, so we'll throw that away. So what I need to do now is to mark the position of these notches for the screw holes. Try to center it left and right and on this cut, and then I'm going to mark these U-shaped slots like that. Okay, well, it's not perfect, but let's try that. So I had to take the platen off, which is easy. Took a little fiddling to get the plastic underneath the back of these screws, tighten them up. So it does stick really nicely. I mean, it adheres or touches the platen, so it should keep the paper nice and flat. And of course, I have not yet put the V-notch up here for the typing position, but the problem I see right now is the ribbon vibrator is going to hang up on it. See, it's not falling down, so I don't think this plastic is stiff enough for that. I can probably try cutting it, but it's pretty thin. So now we're back to round 2. Well, something like that. Well, so it works. I ruled a typing line. The plastic is a little too thin, however, for being rigid enough to allow the paper to go underneath the paper bales. So I have a pattern marked out on this plastic tube. I'm going to try to cut it out now. Okay, well, this is the piece that I was able to cut out. Doesn't look perfect, but the big thing is, can I put it in there? Let's try it. Well, it is in there, but the vibrator is completely stuck. It won't move, so we're going to have to come up with a different mounting method. Well, okay, so I've drawn 2 halves. One is here and the other one is here, and they're very rectangular, and it gives all this free space in the middle for the vibrator to move up and down, so hopefully nothing will bind. I just need to cut these out, file them down, and install them and see what happens. Well, here are the pieces. Now I'm going to try to fit them onto the machine. Wish me luck. Well, I do have to raise the paper bale still to feed the paper underneath it, but that was the way the machine originally was. And it looks like, though, it is okay. It's very close to the paper here, which is kind of what you want. It doesn't drag on the paper. Well, it might actually work. So what I had to do is I had to heat up the part with a heat gun, and I had to bend it here, do a reverse bend in the middle here in order to get to the right shape. But in the meantime, the original parts for the card guide I will keep in case I need this metal bracket, and the original plastic part I can use as a pattern if I need to make something else, so these will be saved. Well, that was kind of a fun project. Actually, parts of it weren't that fun. I made 3 or 4 different versions of these card guides from different material until I got something close to what would work, Then I had to bend it with a heat gun in the middle. It looks okay. It's similar to the originals. They're actually a little bit wider apart. It has a typing guideline. Well, another typewriter that's been rescued from the trash heap of being a parts machine. It's working pretty good. I did some serious degreasing to it the other day, and the only thing it needs now are the drive belts replaced. And that is a whole nother story about drive belts for SCM 6 Series electric machines, and we'll cover that in another episode. I wish you the very best. If you have an electric machine, get it out and start writing with it. And as always, stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.